As I sat there in my very negative thoughts, in my irritability and agitation, I kept thinking to myself, what is wrong with me? I feel crazy. Where do I begin in my menopause symptoms in? I spent about 30 to 40 minutes in this space wrestling it out with God because I was in church. I simultaneously felt guilty and kept thinking, there's no reason to be this irritated, Mary. There's no reason to be so negative. Why are you being so hard on yourself? You are literally in church before the altar, before God, and you're having these types of thoughts. My friend, if any of this resonates with you, today's conversation is one I think you're going to appreciate. If this is your first time finding me, welcome to my channel. I'm Mary. I'm a woman over 50 on a mission to help other women in menopause over 50 better navigate their mental health. What happens to us at this time, mentally and emotionally, is a very real thing. We do need to focus on the medical aspects of menopause. We do need to focus on what happens physically to our bodies and our brain during menopause. But make no mistake, we need to spend equal time and effort on what's happening to our mental health as well. So this past weekend, I was in South Louisiana visiting my parents. They're in their 80s. And I was just there just to visit them because they're in their 80s. It had been a couple of months since I had seen them. I was trying to decide yesterday what my day was going to look like. I didn't know what time I was going to leave. I didn't know what mass I was going to. Sometimes when I'm in South Louisiana, I don't necessarily go to church with my parents. Sometimes when I'm there, I decide to go to other masses. And so as I was just trying to figure it out during the early part of the morning, I honestly felt okay. I slept decent amount of hours on Saturday night. I got up Sunday morning, had some coffee with my parents. And overall, I was in an okay mood. I wouldn't say that I was in the best mood. I wouldn't say that I was feeling high or energetic, but I definitely was not feeling dark or negative or easily agitated. And so to fast forward to later that morning when I was sitting in the pew in Mass before God, having all of these uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, I was really just kind of stumped and confused. I know intellectually what goes on with us during menopause as it relates to our mental health. But even though I have that knowledge, when I'm in that space, and I'm sure when you are in that space, it is still difficult to just be okay with it. It is still difficult to normalize it and say, oh, okay, well, this is just menopause, so this is okay. It's not okay. Menopause or not, it is not okay to be in this negative space, whether it's 40 minutes like I was yesterday or 40 hours, 40 days, like just fill in the blank. None of it is okay. And we can, as women over 50 in menopause, we can absolutely begin to question our sanity, to question what is this all for, to just question everything. Good news, my friend. I have 3 tips that I want to share with you today that can help you to move from that space to this space, from the negative and the uncomfortable and the difficult to the positive, the hopeful, and the proverbial silver lining in all of it. Now, the first couple of steps may or may not make sense to you, but I'm going to ask you to just kind of bear with me for just a moment. The first thing that is important for you to do is to actually lean in to this negativity. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but when you put all three steps in place, it makes much more sense. When we lean into our negative thoughts, our uncomfortable feelings, what we are doing is we are allowing ourselves to really feel the feeling, to really feel the pain instead of masking it, instead of distracting ourselves, instead of running away from it, instead of compartmentalizing, which is what we tend to do. And the more you lean into it and allow the pain, the emotional and mental pain to really be felt, what ultimately ends up happening is the pain begins to dissipate. I'm going to use a massage as an illustration of what I'm talking about. If you've ever had a massage and the massage therapist found a knot, like maybe like right here in your shoulders or your neck, and as soon as they found that knot, you felt your body tense and you were thinking, holy moly, that hurts. But even though it hurt, like it was physical pain, it was actually what I call the good pain, meaning I know that knot is not good for my neck. And so, as a result of having the knowledge that it's not good to have that knot, I'm able to allow the massage therapist to really kind of work it out. And so you're laying on the table and you're feeling this pain and you're wanting them to stop, but then you don't want them to stop. And as a result of them keep going and keep going, what ends up happening is at the end of the hour, that knot, it's not there anymore, or it is a lot less visible. And you just feel better overall. This is what I'm talking about, only we're talking about emotional pain. You really lean into it and you feel it for all that it is. You feel it in your body, but you don't stay there. Just like a literal massage is only going to last so long, there's a time frame. The same thing needs to be applied to our emotional pain. Set that parameter up and tell yourself, okay, I'm going to lean into this, but I'm only going to do it for X amount of time. Set a timer if you need to, in all sincerity, but give yourself a set amount of time. And then once that time is done, you move into step 2, which is basically the opposite. Now, in step 2, you're leaning away from the emotional and mental pain and towards that which is good for your mental health, that which is actually healthy. In step 2, you are reframing, you are refocusing. You are now looking at, what do I have? What do I know to be true about my life? What do I know to be real in this moment? And you just continue to lean into that. And every time your mind wants to take you back to the first step, right? Every time your mind wants to go, oh, okay, hey, let's lean back into that negativity, this over here. You just pull back and you say, nope, now it's time for me to reshift, to reframe, to refocus. And through that, being intentional with what you are now putting into your mind. So to go back to yesterday, how I did step 2 was during my ride home. I had a 4-hour ride back home yesterday. I decided to fill my mind with good stuff. I decided to be intentional about the podcast I was listening to, about the YouTube videos I was listening to, about the music, right? I was being intentional about what I was feeding my mind because I didn't want to feed it more negativity. I didn't want to feed it more, dark, confusing, upsetting thoughts and things. I wanted to feed it good stuff. And so that's what you do. You lean into the positive. You lean into what is real, what you have, and you keep focusing and you keep focusing. And you do this, there's no time limit with this one, right? You just keep doing it and you keep doing it. And then thirdly, at some point on this journey within this, 1 hour, 2 hour, 5 hour time frame, whatever it is, or maybe it's the totality of the day. But at some point, you then go to step 3, which is action. You do something with your mind and your body, right? Your whole self. So what I chose to do was something that's going to sound really kind of anticlimactic. It's not anything earth shattering. I simply did 3 things. I went to the grocery store before I came home because I knew I needed a couple of items. And then secondly, I got home and I cooked. I cooked said food that I had. I also unpacked my clothes. So I got busy doing other things in the house. And then the third thing I did was I was intentional about spending time with my husband, about being with him and not being negative. I hadn't seen him all weekend. The last thing I wanted to do was be a Debbie Downer when it had nothing to do with him. And really and truly, it just was not worth it. And so I understand that these 3 steps may or may not make sense to you. I understand they may seem like, I don't really know if that's going to work. But if you are willing to try them, if you are willing to implement them, the next time you recognize that mentally and emotionally you are falling off the path, that you are going to a place that you do not need to go to mentally, try it out. Try these 3 steps and then see how it goes. Part of this journey of better managing our mental health during menopause is doing those things that we really don't want to do. It's being uncomfortable. It's stepping out in faith. It's taking the first step when you cannot see the full staircase. My friend, if you allow yourself to stay in the negative too long, step 2, it's going to seem almost impossible. And you really want to avoid that from happening. None of this is going to take it all away. None of these steps are going to zero out your emotional and mental pain. But when you're on that 10-point scale, 10 being the worst, and you're hovering around an 8, 9, or a 10, this absolutely and positively can drop you below a 5. You might be a 4, you might even be a 4.5, but you will not be staying at that top level. And so the goal is progression. The goal is to come down from the emotional upheaval that happens in our minds. If any of this was beneficial for you, if it resonated with you, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like this video, if you would subscribe to my channel, and more importantly, if you know someone who could benefit also from this information, hit the share button and send that link right over to her. I would so greatly appreciate it. Thanks, my friend. Stay tuned next week when I will bring yet another video on how you can navigate this absolute insane time of our lives that everybody else calls menopause. Bye for now, friend.